The Lieutenant Governor has been an outspoken leader for students, educators, and classrooms. He's been a strong voice for small businesses, rural communities, the state's colleges and universities, and career and technical education programs. He also served as interim Secretary of the Public Education Department. I mean, his accomplishments align so closely with what we're doing, especially in our new state workforce plan, that we just had to have him open up our conference. He and our next speaker, Speaker of the House, Javier Martinez, were instrumental in creating the new Early Childhood Education and Care Department to focus our efforts to assist families and children, and he had to actually champion that idea even as a legislator. He's chairman of the Aerospace States Association, which is one of our priority areas, promoting that industry. He's a member of the New Mexico Border Authority. We have our board chair here from that part of the world, and he's provided leadership in the development of the state's burgeoning international ports, supported new infrastructure, trade opportunities, job opportunities, and he's also in the Softball Hall of Fame of New Mexico and the member of the High School Baseball Coaches New Mexico Hall of Fame, something I did not know until I prepared this. He's also just a passionate, warm person who cares so deeply about everyone in our state and making sure that everyone has access to opportunity, to education, to make a good life for themselves and their families. Please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Governor Howie Morales.
Well, good afternoon. It's wonderful to be together after the pandemic, after not being together in one room like we are today for quite some time. It is inspiring and it's exciting to see that. I just want to begin by, first of all, thanking the Secretary for all your work that you've done, all of your staff, all those individuals who are with the Workforce Solutions Department. Please stand and wave, be recognized.
Come on.
And I wanted to start off by recognizing the work that you do, because as I talked about, we were in a 1 in 100 year pandemic. None of us expected that. And the work that we saw that came through our office, we deal with constituent services. And the work that we saw and the calls that came in the numbers were amazing because they were so incredibly busy. Many of those calls that came in were dealing with workforce solutions. People in tears, concerned how they were going to get to pay their house payment or their automobiles or how they were going to purchase food. And it was you workers and many others across the state who made sure that people in Mexico were taken care of. So I just wanted to first of all say sincerely, thank you for the work that you do and the impact that you had. Big round of applause for all of our employees. I always try to make sure that I never lose focus of what my core areas were as a Secretary and now Lieutenant Governor. So those areas being obviously in education, as the Secretary had mentioned, early childhood, K-12, higher education, but also recognizing the importance of taking care of our senior citizens because the individual work that they did for each of us that took care of us. So I always want to make sure and focus on that. I also want to focus on, as a former special education teacher, to never forget our disability population. Never forget what it is that our students, our advocates, all of our people across the state who we don't focus on the disability, but the abilities that they bring and what they do to me as an educator. So I'm grateful that during this month that we're able to celebrate our Disabilities Awareness Week or month and the opportunity to celebrate our employees. Focus on that. And lastly, I want to make sure that we recognize that sacrificed for us, that paid the price, that may not this person, maybe with us spiritually. Many of us may be related to veterans across this state and across this country. I also want to recognize all those veterans. So if you're a veteran, retired, current, please stand or wave for your service. Thank you. And I'd also to recognize the best dressed team that we have here from the eastern side of the state, the Workforce Connect group. How about that Dodger Blue over there? Again, the energy is just amazing, and I'm sorry to be here. As I talk about some of the work that's being done, when this is the connection to education, and what that means in my personal story, why that is so important, to recognize that the importance and the work and the impact that you do, you may not see that or recognize that on a daily basis. But trust me, the work that you do all across the state of New Mexico has an impact. And I think that that's key, whether it's YDI, whether it's Help New Mexico, whether it's our workforce connections, whether it's other areas that we see that work together with our workforce solutions family. You guys have an impact. And when I talk about that, I talk about it from a personal standpoint and why that is so meaningful to me and why I'm glad to be here today. Because I often joke, some of you that maybe heard me speak, and it's really not a joke, I mean, it's the reality of a big family. One of my cousins actually sitting there, Peter Martinez. I come from a big family, we come from a big family. My dad had 14 brothers and 5 sisters. So I often joke that it was really easy for me to get elected as state senator from my area. But of that large family, I was fortunate to be able the first one to go to college. And the opportunity to really change the cycle of poverty through education. And recognizing the importance of what it is that we do to change that cycle for generations to come. Because when I was thinking back, as I was driving up this morning, I was thinking back when I was about 10 years old, early 80s, 1983 to be exact, right around the time frame. See, my father didn't graduate from high school. He dropped out in the 10th grade. He went on and served in Vietnam, and he came back. In our area, in copper country, you either went on to college or you went to work in the mines. So when he came back from Vietnam, he went to work in the mines. And during that time, when you have the prices of copper that rise and fall, at times there's layoffs. And when those layoffs happen, not having a high school diploma really made things difficult. So I was 10 years old, right around that time frame, and I can remember the stressors that came with that. I can remember looking as a 10-year-old at the help wanted ads. Looking at the help wanted ads where most 10-year-olds are thinking about what they're gonna do, what they're gonna go play, those kind of things. Looking at the help wanted ads, trying to find, knowing the importance of that, to have my father get employed or have a job, whether it's a security job, whether it was going in and being a bus driver, whatever could be done to find ways, because I knew the impact that it had on our families. When there's economic stressors, financial stressors, it does have impact that have other adverse effects. So as a 10-year-old, I remember that. And even though he was able to go in and to learn a trade with heavy mechanical operations, there was no certificate at the time. So in order to be hired in different ways, you needed that certification, but there wasn't. And when we look and see the impact of what that means of what you do, to provide the programs to ensure people have the certification necessary, also the support, to recognize that it's important that we continue to build and to continue to show programs like the Be Pro, Be Proud program that we see across the state. To see the seminar that is there, and I'm so excited to see it. I haven't seen it. I know we talked about it early on. I believe that was a $2 million investment. Was that correct from the state? Thank you, Speaker Martinez, for your leadership and your work with the legislature to make sure that that was done. Because giving and empowering those individuals to have an opportunity, even before they got out of high school, to have that pathway so they have a life where they have the certification and they have the opportunity to do that. And that's so critical now, because going in and why I chose to become an educator was because I wanted to be connected to our kids. I love sports, I love coaching, so having that opportunity to do so. But I can tell you what really moved me from the direction from being an educator into policy making, into the Senate, and being a voice for educators across the state. When I saw some changes that were taking place, and you guys are really dealing with that now, and some of your breakout sessions dealing with areas for assisting students who may have disabilities, of working with those veterans who are coming back to ensure that they have an opportunity to have employment. And those, not forgetting about those in our society that maybe were incarcerated for whatever reason, as they get out, that they're productive members to our society. These are the programs that you're continually working on, and these are the programs that make a difference. Because I can remember when I chose to leave the field of the profession of education, it was about 2001. And there was a change in education that happened. The change that really started shifting our education system to focus more on reading and math, because those are going to be tested. And those are going to be ways to evaluate how a school system was doing. So if you look at a yearbook from the 1960s and 1970s, how thick that yearbook was, there was many opportunities. Auto shop, welding, drafting, construction, and the list can go on and on. But we were told across the country that in order to be successful and have a successful life, you got to move towards college. And the pathway to college will provide you that. And so we took away opportunities of engagement for students. I'm so glad to see that under our administration of Michelle Lujan Grisham, that we've focused in education as a whole, early childhood education. And because of the advocacy of Speaker Martinez and many others, we have now the funding available where we're able to utilize the permanent fund to assist our students at the earliest stages, most critical stages of a life. But when we recognize that, seeing them placing that for a K-12, our opportunity scholarship that just went in, that our news is reporting that we have higher enrollment than we've ever had. All this is in a collaboration of what's being done. Because I saw that when the belief that came out to our school system saying that you have to do reading and math and do away with the other programs because they're not measured, I see that we're making glad that we have our federal responsibility, the United States Department of Workforce here with this as well, to really focus on the career technical educational aspects and to recognize what that means as we continue to move forward. Because as we have individuals coming into your office, you're doing it to make sure that you're not seeing them as an individual, regardless of what their background is. You're seeing that person as a productive citizen who can be an employee when we put out those dollars for new infrastructure, like our roads, our broadband, our opportunities that we see all across the state for our bridges, and more capital funding that's coming in. This is the opportunities that each one of you brings. And I want to recognize, even though you may not see this on a daily basis, what you are providing, those opportunities to people across the state, is so impactful. Because we want to make sure that individuals didn't have to go through the life and the pathway that our family experienced when my father didn't have the certifications necessary. Even though the skills were there, you need that certification. That assistance. You need that support to recognize that while you're getting trained, that you also have an income through programs coming in that you can still buy food for your families. So I'll leave you with this and really show the industry that we're in and really showing single one of you and what you mean. So the story goes that you have a young teenager who walks into a gas station. And when he walks into a gas station, he sees a young older gentleman who is there mopping. And he says to that old gentleman, the gentleman said to the old gentleman, "What if I told you I keep seeing those boots in my dream?" The older, wiser gentleman said, "It's time you wake up, because you can go through a whole lifetime living through a dream." And the young man said, "Hey, Socrates, if you're so wise, why are you working in a gas station?" And the gentleman said, "I work in a service station, and there is no higher purpose." Teenager came back and said, "Then pumping gas?" And the older, wiser gentleman said, "Service to others." When we ask, what industry are we in? We're in an industry that provides service to others, that makes generational impact, makes generational change, to ensure that we're doing every single day to help make the state better in every single aspect. So the work that you do and the networking that you, collaboration that you're continuing to build on over the next couple of days, always remember that our purpose is to provide for people across the state of New Mexico. And I'm so proud to be in a room with individuals like you who are providing that service on a daily basis. God bless you.
I can't think of many more people who share my values and my heart than our next speaker, and it's an honor to live in his district. Please join me in welcoming Speaker Javier Martinez.
For that kind introduction. As my constituent, when she calls, I answer immediately. She lives 2 blocks from me. She knows exactly where I live too. Lieutenant Governor Morales, governor right now, because Governor Lujan Grisham is out of the country. So Governor Howie Morales, always good to be in your presence. And then just a quick little side note, I've got 2 kids, 11 and 8, I never use my title anywhere I go, and except one time at a baseball game recently, and I had this special parking spot outside of Isop's Park, and I pulled up, and there was a security lady, and I said, "I've got a parking spot for Speaker of the House," and she looks at me and says, "The Speaker of what?" And the kids in the back started cracking up, which was awesome. And now they don't let me forget it. So, I'm a big believer in collaboration. I think it makes public service that much stronger. We know that we've faced some really tough times in recent years, from the darkest days of the pandemic that the Lieutenant Governor described earlier, to figuring out how we navigate this. We know that our workforce is changing, but we are resilient. We are New Mexicans, and we are ready for those changes. And by working together with everybody in this room, from the government agencies to the nonprofits and the business community, we are building back even stronger than before the pandemic. The legislature has made unprecedented investments in workforce development in recent years, including investments in pre-apprenticeship and work-based learning, the Opportunity Scholarship, as the Lieutenant Governor mentioned, career technical education, and a subject that is near and dear to my heart, early childhood education. New Mexico is the #1 state in terms of funding and building access for early childhood education for kids across the country, right here in New Mexico, because of your work. We've also been able to leverage historic levels of federal funding for critical projects, including broadband expansion, so that all of our communities have access to high-speed connectivity needed for modern life. We've strengthened our community college infrastructure as well to make sure that folks in our rural communities and young people who don't want to go to a four-year institution still have access to the tools that they need to compete in today's economy. And we've also made drastic changes and improvements to our healthcare system. We know that healthcare is a very, very sensitive issue here in New Mexico. We've worked hard to make sure that we can keep delivering quality service to all of our people. Each of these areas that I talked about will need a strong workforce. That's where you come in. I've been honored to partner with Secretary Nair and the Department of Workforce Solutions toward these shared goals of reducing poverty and unemployment and protecting hardworking New Mexicans. I'm also heartened to see the agency incorporating input from all of our communities, because I truly believe that the best ideas come from those communities that we all serve. After listening to New Mexicans across the state, the Department of Workforce Solutions is now working hard to meet the needs of New Mexico's working families and build a workforce that is ready for tomorrow. That means developing key industries that are vital to our economy, our everyday lives, and our future, including healthcare, as we said before, early childhood education, first responders, the construction, aerospace, and biotechnology industries, as well as our transition to clean energy and climate resiliency, which will be led by workers on the ground. It also means increasing labor force participation rates by removing barriers and creating greater paths to opportunity for opportunity youth, individuals that are involved in the criminal justice system, our tribal communities, people with disabilities, people who live in rural communities, veterans, and making sure that women can come back to the workforce after giving birth. New Mexicans can not only contribute to this workforce, but we also have the opportunity to build successful careers and thrive. Because after all, a strong economy is only possible when it's built by the workers that are running it. I grew up in a household with two blue-collar workers, my mom and my dad. My dad worked in construction. He did drywall for well over 35 years. My mother worked in the laundry department of a nursing home just down the road here on Louisiana. I saw firsthand how critically important it was for them to be able to have access to jobs that, quite frankly, gave me a life, right? I didn't really know we were poor, but I couldn't never really tell we were poor, right? Because those jobs provided a paycheck for my dad every week, for my mom every other week. And while my family wasn't able to take vacations, I didn't fly in an airplane until I was in high school, for example, we lived a good, solid, working class life. And I want every child in New Mexico to be able to live that good, solid, working-class life. I remind my colleagues in the legislature oftentimes, we should always think about the impact of our decisions, of our votes, on the folks who have to shower after work, not the folks like me who shower before I go to work, right? Once you put that into perspective, your decisions are a little different. And your decisions, all of a sudden, start to not be so rigid in terms of ideological or even party lines, right? Because when you're thinking about the impact on people on the ground, your vote is a little different. Working people are the people who keep moving forward. These are the people mopping the floors, serving us a coffee, the gentleman who was cleaning the bathroom when I came in before this speech, right? These are the people that keep these communities going. And we owe it to them to help advance their dreams, their children's dreams, and that means building a stronger workforce, one that is ready for the challenges of tomorrow. It's been an honor these many years in the legislature and even before to fight for working families. Thanks to the work of all of you in this room, I believe in my heart that we are on the right path, but the work will continue. We have the talent and we have the minds in this room today to ensure that we make good on the promise of all of the investments before. Most importantly, investing in our greatest resource, our people. As I look across this room, I see diverse faces. I see diverse perspectives. I see people from all walks of life. And that is a testament to the good work of Secretary Nair and her entire team. So congratulations on this convening. Again, I'm glad we're back in person, and I'm glad we can shake hands again and give hugs again. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at the next legislative session. That building is your building. It's the people's house. It's open for you. Thank you very much.
Next up, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Amy Lloyd, the Assistant Secretary for the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education at the United States Department of Education. In this role, she oversees national programs related to career and technical education, community colleges, adult education and literacy, and correctional education. Before she joined the Biden-Harris administration, Dr. Lloyd was a vice president at Jobs for the Future, where she designed and led programs across the United States that improve education and workforce outcomes. Her work at JFF focused on state and regional policies, practices, and cross-sector partnerships that engaged K-12 education, community colleges, adult ed, workforce development, economic development, and employers, all of us here in this room, to build systems of college and career pathways, leveraging career and technical education. She also oversaw JFF's work in workforce development with a lens on economic advancement, state and federal policy, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. She previously was the Director of Education at Cook Inlet Tribal Council, leading a network of schools providing culturally responsive education, training, and wraparound services to the Alaska Native and Native American communities. Dr. Lloyd also attended Santa Fe Community College and Northern New Mexico Community College, and holds a bachelor's degree from St. John's College and a doctorate in education leadership from the Harvard Graduate School of Education, where she was an adjunct lecturer on building career pathways to increase opportunity and equity. I got to hear Assistant Secretary Lloyd speak at a different conference for community colleges, and then I was thrilled to learn that she is based out of Albuquerque. And I think it was like the next day that I asked her to come speak to this room, because I think you'll all be just as inspired by what she has to say as I was that day. So please join me in welcoming Assistant Secretary Dr. Amy Lloyd.
Caché, buenas tardes. Hi, everyone. As wonderful Secretary Nayar said, my name is Amy Lloyd. I am honored to serve our nation as the Assistant Secretary of the Office of Career, Technical, and Adult Education at the U.S. Department of Education, also known as OCTAE, because we love a good acronym. And I'm here today just with such a spirit of immense gratitude. I love that we are all here together to gather to discuss both the present and the future of New Mexico's workforce. The work that you do in this space is nothing short of transformative, and the impact that you have on individuals, on families, and on our communities is truly immeasurable. And so thank you to Secretary Nayar, to our Department of Workforce Solutions, to Lieutenant Governor Morales, and to Speaker Martinez for your leadership and for the opportunity for me to speak with you all today, and for bringing all of you together from across the state to lean into this work and to help kind of envision and build our future. And as the Secretary shared, yes, this is our state. I'm a New Mexican born and raised, and while my work is in DC and I'm there typically Sundays through Thursdays, my heart, my home, my family, and my weekends are here in Albuquerque. And your work is just a theoretical construct to me. Like, your work immediately impacts and transforms my family members across the state, the people and the places I care about most. And this focused on the power of workforce development is so critically important for all of us here in New Mexico and for our entire nation. And so if you're not familiar with our office, all of our work sits at the essential and exciting interdependence and connection between education, workforce development, and economic development. So my office leads on the federal Perkins program, which funds career and technical education that spans both secondary, starting as early as 5th grade, through community and technical colleges. My office leads also in Title II of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, known as WIOA. You all are probably very familiar with WIOA. And focusing on adult education and family serving adults, so many people in my family, so many people in our country, in our great state, adults who may have many talents and skills but want to level up in their literacy, or who our education system did not serve well, want to attain their high school diploma or equivalency, or adults who want to earn that next step workforce credential, or learn English and civics and have a pathway to citizenship. I love all the adults our workforce system serves and that I have the honor of serving through Title II and WIOA. And then we also lead on focusing on expanding and strengthening career-connected education systems broadly for students. We lead in lifting up and supporting community colleges. And frankly, I am so glad I went to Northern and to Santa Fe community colleges, and back then Northern was a 2-year. I love that it's now Northern New Mexico College and a 4-year, but community colleges are really power hubs into which all of us plug in and can power up. And my office also leads on providing people who are incarcerated, who are formerly incarcerated, and are returning home to our communities with education and workforce supports through correctional education. So in all of our work that I have the honor of leading, and all of our work in this room, we're serving young people and adults from all walks of life who are seeking career-connected learning opportunities. And frankly, we're helping to create our nation's skilled talent pipeline. And in all of the work that I lead at the U.S. Department of Education, we need to be closely partnering with you, with our workforce systems. And I should also mention that I often refer to our colleagues at the U.S. Department of Labor as my agency BFFs. I'm in constant communication with my counterparts there, my friends there, to ensure that we are a united front across education and workforce development. So I'm here today on behalf of U.S. Secretary of Education Miguel Cardona and our U.S. Department of Education, but also on behalf of our entire federal family and the Biden-Harris administration, just to express our deep appreciation for the work that each and every one of you leads. On behalf of our learners, our workers, our community, our economy, and I know every single day you wake up with a mission to unlock potential and to bridge gaps and to empower our people with the ability to achieve their own dreams. And so you are truly our unsung heroes in our workforce system, who are providing tools and guidance for people to transform their lives, to break free from any constraints of the past they may be carrying, to shape futures of promise and hope. And I know this is really hard work. I've been in the thick of it. I've been in direct service, and I've also been in systems building and workforce, and I so deeply believe in the power of workforce development. We are right now facing a lot of challenges, changing economic landscapes, technological disruptions. I've had more conversations about AI in the past 6 months than I have in the past 25 years, and I believe in some exciting opportunity there. There are deep inequities that we're still contending with that the pandemic laid bare for us to all see, but we know that those inequities were longstanding before the pandemic, and the pandemic only made them deeper and wider for so many people. And yet these challenges, they're obstacles, but they're also opportunities for us. And I think about how in the midst of adversity, that's where we find innovation. Or, in this challenge to change, that's where we discover growth and new ways of being. And so I think about, as we think about unity in education and workforce, how can we create strength and transform outcomes for people through working together differently? So I'm excited about how your work can leverage President Biden's Investing in America work. So we say investing in America, but what this means is there are a lot of big bodies legislation, the American Rescue Plan, Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, CHIPS and Science Act, Inflation Reduction Act. Through investing in America, we are making unprecedented, once-in-a-generation federal investments in our nation's economy. And we're pairing what we hope to be big vision with concrete actions and meaningful resources. We're transforming our economy in key areas that are vital to our great state here in New Mexico, such as infrastructure, clean energy, manufacturing, semiconductors, aerospace, technology, EV, and so much more. And these investments are poised to create millions of great jobs across our country. They're poised to improve lives across our country. But again and again, I see the headlines, you may see them too, or I hear them on the radio, and then I also hear from business and industry the concerns about, yes, great, all these investments, but how do we ensure that we have the trained, talented workforce that we need to rise to the incredible occasion that investing in America brings? And that's where all of us and our work together comes in. Our nation's workforce development system, in partnership with our nation's education system, and I really appreciate that Lieutenant Governor Morales made that explicit connection. Education is workforce development. Our systems are the answer here. And as our acting assistant secretary, acting U.S. secretary, she's not the assistant, she's the U.S. Secretary of Labor, Julie Su says, our work, your work in workforce development is essential infrastructure. We think about roads and bridges. You are building roads and bridges to connect people to the good jobs that they want and to connect employers to the people that they want and need. And for our economy and for our communities to thrive, we need these workforce development roads and bridges to be strong as the rest of our country's infrastructure. And like our physical roads and bridges across the nation, I've heard 5 miles of roads in our country need to be repaired. That's a lot of infrastructure work. Over 45,000 bridges need to be repaired in our country. Lots of infrastructure. So like the physical roads and bridges in our country, we have some potholes and some cracks in our nation's workforce system, and we know it. There are entire communities that aren't served well as a whole across our system. So I think about how we can ensure, the people in this room, we are the ones who can ensure that everyone, including people of color, people from low-income backgrounds, people in our rural communities, people who have immigrated to our country looking for opportunity, individuals with disabilities, everyone is being met where they are in their journey, and that our workforce system helps take them to where they dream to be. And this is our opportunity to make this real. As leaders in workforce development, you hold the key to unlocking all of this untapped potential in our communities. Our people are so brilliant and so full of possibility. You have the power here to inspire, to educate, to drive change, and the solutions that you provide aren't just about jobs. They're about dignity. They're about self-worth. They're about the chance for all of us to have a stronger future together. And I think about how President Biden often talks about how we want to build the middle class from the bottom up and the middle out, and that a job isn't just about money. It's about providing a vision for a future, providing families connections and hope and possibility. I urge you similarly to remember that every single person we serve, every single person is a story waiting to be told. Like every individual in our amazing state Mexico has the potential to contribute to our state's growth, our state's prosperity. And when I think about all the big legislation that we have at the level of in America, that's investing in real people. I think about the people I know, the people in this room, the people we all know, the communities we carry with us, our ancestors who we carry with us. Investing in America is investing in our people. So I'm here to urge you to take this moment to leverage the transformation of our economy as an opportunity for transformation in our work in workforce development. Consider what education to meet the diverse needs of our learners and our workers and of our business and industry alike. You probably know that next year, both our Perkins plan and our WIOA plans that states have will be resubmitted, and states have the opportunity to shape a big, bold vision. These plans are submitted once every 4 years, and when they were last written, it was before the pandemic, or just in the emergent stages of the pandemic, and before all these huge shifts in our economy. So this is our moment to inform and shape a bold vision for what we know our communities need to build a high-wage, thriving, inclusive economy for everyone in New Mexico, and to reshape how our education system, our workforce development system, and our economic development systems all work together to meet that vision and to hold the promise of our people. So at the Department of Labor, we often say, yes, WIOA can. So yes, WIOA can. We can and we must pursue more bold and innovative action to strengthen how our workforce structure operates, and we need to center equity in all that we're doing. I know the federal government is not seen as an entity that's typically nimble or flexible or creative. I think often compliance orientation, we want to hit a reset. We want to think about how we can work in partnership with you to make sure that our programs and policies are not inadvertently continuing and perpetuating systemic barriers, but instead that we're working with you to break down any barriers that you need to connect systems to really, in service to people, to help people live and grow. Our workforce system is such a powerful tool for connecting under-resourced communities, underrepresented workers to good jobs, and this racial investment that Investing in America provides is our opportunity. So in this spirit, I want to a little bit encourage seize this moment to think about how I can work across workforce and economic development to raise the bar about career success for every single high school student, every single student in the nation, by blurring the lines between the world of K-12, post-secondary, and the world of work. Because for far too long, the journey from adolescence to adulthood has been pretty disjointed and disconnected. And we wait until far too late in a young person's trajectory to really help them think about their next steps, about their futures. And we know that regardless of our students and what they want to do after high school, whether they're going straight to the workforce or they're going on to advanced degrees, every single student's headed to a job, and ideally to a good job, to a career. And when we say good job, practically all good jobs, those that pay a living, thriving wage, those that provide benefits and stability and opportunities for worker voice, those that provide pathways for economic and social advancement, these jobs require some sort of post-secondary education after high school. And what we're trying to do is step back and help our nation see that beyond the 4-year box, right? See that there's a whole array of incredible opportunities. So whether that post-secondary education is a technical school, a community college, a 4-year degree, a registered apprenticeship, workforce development credentials, and workforce training, we know our students need more than a high school diploma to thrive, and our administration is all in on reimagining multiple pathways to success for all of our young people. Thinking about boundary spanning and line blurring career and post-secondary pathways that respond to labor market needs in the future of work. So if I could wave a magic wand, I would have every single high school student graduate with 4 things, 4 keys to unlock their career success. 1 is leaving high school with some secondary credit, college credit. 2 is experience in the workplace. 3 is an industry credential they can use. And 4 is a plan to achieve their career ambitions. So I've partnered with the Department of Labor, Department of Commerce, and the White House to launch a new initiative called Unlocking Career Success around these 4 keys. And I'll do a quick deep dive into we want students to benefit from earning college credit in high school. We know that when students, especially students who may not see themselves as going college, first-gen college students, students of color, students from low-income backgrounds, if they earn their first English class, their first math class, a couple CT classes, possible steps for them, they are going to accelerate their momentum to and through their first post-secondary credential. And we need you, our workforce system, to be partnering with our school districts and our community colleges to make sure as we're building out career and technical education programs, they're responsive to your workforce needs and to your economic development needs. And we want students to graduate high school with industry-sought credentials. There are literally over 1 million different credentials in our nation right now that employers recognize. And so I'm trying to shift from yes, I recognize that credential exists, to no, that is a credential that shows me that you have the skills I need in my workforce. What are the credentials employers are putting on their job descriptions? And how do we make sure our students in high school start credentials and that they stack up into next steps? So integrating workforce credentials and making sure we're partnering with you, our workforce system, on that. Let's identify what those credentials of value are, and how do we make sure every single person in New Mexico receives personalized career advising and support, navigation, that students and families have the power in their hands to exercise self-determination for their own lives. And so we'd love the workforce community in New Mexico to partner with us in ensuring that career counselors, advisors, navigators in every high school are supporting our young people and their families to have that knowledge and make those decisions. Education should leave choices, and pathways should be options multipliers. And then we want every student to benefit ideally from paid based learning opportunities. And here's where we can really do a lot more partnership across education and workforce. We want young people to not just go to workplace settings as job shadow, but we want them to apply their brilliance and their knowledge and skills in real world settings and extend their learning beyond the classroom and the community. So whether that's apprenticeship, internships, we could be working so much more in the nation across education and workforce on a shared youth workforce development, and just make sure that we're supporting every single in-school youth and students who are out of school and seeking their best next step to consider how, can help us connect schools and employers differently. So I see so much opportunity for us to break down the silos between education and workforce. And I think about if our amazing state, if our great country really wants to live up to the dream that we hold, it's up to us, it's up to you here in New Mexico to lead ensuring that education and workforce development really does lead up to the promise of providing what we want for every single person, like lifelong opportunity, economic advancement opportunity, career growth. And so we want to work with you at the federal level and across education and workforce at the state and local levels to create systems of high quality career and post-secondary pathways here in New Mexico that are options multipliers for every young person and for adults to be able to compete on a stage in our rapidly shifting economy. And working with you, with our local leaders, is how we get this done. You are the ones who bring vision to life. You're the ones rolling up your sleeves to actually build these pathways and make sure people are connecting with the promise that they have to fulfill endless potential. And I know you have so many urgent and competing commitments. I know coming to a conference like this takes you away from the day-to-day, and the work of systems change and taking on a bold vision is really hard. I'd argue that this work is foundational if we're going to continue to grow and thrive as a state and a nation. And what we do right now in building education workforce connections is what's going to define and shape the future of New Mexico and the future of our country. So the Department of Education, we are committed to working in partnership with you to ensure our students today become excellent educational workforce tomorrow that you need. And we're here to learn from you. We're here to provide tools and resources to you, lift up your successes, ultimately serve agency to you. I really loved the notion of service. That's why we're here. And at the end of a champion, we've already called out the diversity in this room. Our diversity, our cultures are woven in the fabric of who we are. And that is a strength of the state. We have a unique opportunity to take the wealth and the strengths of our diversity to build a brighter future. And I love that the best way to predict the future is to create it. And so how is each and every one of us in this room in the business of creating our future together? We are, many different terms, we are the ability, we're the creator of opportunity, we're the catalyst for progress, but ultimately I love the notion that we are the ones we've been waiting for. It's time to stop pointing fingers and say, oh, if only the education did this, if only business and industry engaged, if only our pre-K system were stronger. By the way, early childhood education programs here in New Mexico and the free college, the opportunity scholarship, the lottery scholarship, we at the federal level are looking to New Mexico truly as exemplars on those fronts. So go New Mexico. But let's stop pointing fingers and let's be the change that we are seeking. So our collective vision is let's make sure every person here has the opportunity to reach their potential, have their skills and their dreams come together and align, and where we as a state together build a future in which every single one of our wonderful community members, family members, neighbors, and friends are shining even brighter. So, Elakwa, gracias. Thank you once again for all your dedication and your hard work, for your commitment to our great state, the people here in New Mexico, and please let us know how we can support you and your exciting work. We are here for you, and we are so appreciative of all you do.